Okay, moving on from Echo, AJ, have you been watching anything else?
I did. I watched Rick and Morty, the seventh season.
Oh wow, they're up to 7 seasons already. How is
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I felt like I don't know if I was just hearing it, like out there in the ether about how like the quality of the show dropped off. The first couple episodes were okay, but I thought the quality was there. I thought it picked up and it was fun watching it. I really enjoy the evil Morty character. Uh, he makes a comeback in this one, and yeah, I mean, all in all, I thought the it was still fun to watch. People like to give Rick and Morty too much credit for being like super highbrow or like very
Right,
intelligent.
right.
I don't think it's any of that. I think it's just funny. Um, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to season 8. I also watched season 10 or 11 of Futurama.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
that was good too. First couple episodes were kind of like poking fun at how they got canceled and other stuff like that from the past, and then it picks up from there. So I mean, kind of the same thing with Rick and Morty in a way. Like, only what's amazing about these shows is like I think what Rick and Morty takes like a year off or 2 years off in between seasons, which is pretty long. And Futurama took like what 15 years off.
They, man, yeah, Futurama's had a really weird publishing schedule because it originally came out and they went for a couple years and then it was canceled and there was a big break and then they did like those like at the time straight to like DVD like releases, and I think that
Yeah,
got enough people interested in that they did like a reboot, and then there was also some time in between those. So it's been a very sporadic like show,
yeah, yeah.
but it's
I
hung in
mean, I
there.
think it's just like Rick and Morty. It's smarter than like a dumb blah comedy. Uh, it's not really like the smartest show ever or anything like that, but it's smarter than most cartoon shows, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a fun watch. I enjoy the humor, so yeah, Rick and Morty and Futurama. I'd recommend both of those.
I don't know who writes Futurama these days, but I know in like the early like seasons, like they say that it had like one of the smartest writers room of all time. Like people like a bunch of like Harvard graduates and like just like
Yeah, same
really
with The
smart
Simpsons.
people. Yeah, same with The
Yeah.
Simpsons. Yeah. Oh, I was curious. So, I know Justin Roiland, who was the voice of Rick and Morty. He got allegations of like domestic abuse or whatever, and so they dropped him from the show. Is it
Mhm.
very noticeable that they have different voice actors now?
Not at all. I didn't even remember that until you just said that.
Okay, well that's a good thing. Um, Man, that's a show. These cartoons, man, the successful ones, they just like go on like it, like I want to say I watched the first 2 seasons of Rick and Morty, and then maybe a couple episodes into season 3, and then I got sidetracked and I haven't been back. And now it's like you tell me there's 7 seasons. I'm like, oh, now I'll probably never get caught
I
up
know
on that
sometimes it becomes
show.
too daunting. That's how
It
I am with The
does.
Boys. Yeah.
It does happen when a show's too successful and like you don't get on it from day one, and then the seasons just stack up, and it's like, well, now I feel like I can never watch it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people tell me that they're jealous because I get to watch it for the first time and there's so much to watch. But for me, it's like, man, that's a huge commitment right there.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I know there's a ton of great shows I haven't watched, but it is a thing when I see like, boy, it's that many seasons, that many hours. That sounds tough,
Yeah.
especially if it's like one of those old school shows that had like 22 episodes a season or something like that. Then it's like really daunting.
Oh yeah, yeah. Only show that I did enjoy watching in that format was iZombie. That was one that I totally enjoyed catching up on. I think the first episode did a really good, job of setting up the show. It was fun. It was cool. It introduced all the characters in a cool way. Like, yeah, it was a good show for me.
Yeah, I've never watched that. Like I'm aware of it, but I've never sat down. But it's also shows to where I'm like, boy, 5 seasons or whatever, like
Yeah,
multiple, like a lot of episodes.
I'm partial to shows from the Pacific Northwest. We live out here in the Pacific Northwest, so like, I guess I just like seeing. I'm like a homer in that way. Oh, look, I live there. That's me. Like, that's my environment.
So like iZombies, like in the Pacific Northwest,
It's in Seattle, yeah.
Seattle. Okay.
Yeah.
What have I been watching? So each week I'm still getting the old Reacher round, watching season 2 of Reacher. It's a fun show. Um, I will say, like some of the action scenes, like they're not bad, but it's another thing where like I feel like we're so spoiled with John Wick that when you see
Mhm.
a just a kind of a regular action scene that where the choreography is not that tight, you're like, I kind of wish this was John Wickish. You know what I mean? Not
I
that that's
get it.
fair.
I get it. I watched a video by Morse Critical, and he did the exact. He covered that in a segment. He was like, they showed like I guess it's like a circulating scene from Reacher where he's like helping save a dog from this abusive owner, and he's like, you expect this to be like a cool John Wick type fight scene, and it's just kind of like bland and blah and lame. He just punches the guy in the face or whatever. Like, yeah, I totally get it. And John Wick did spoil us. Like, I feel like Jackie Chan and John Wick, like they just did action differently. Like
Yeah.
now everything's just hard to keep up with. Like you have to elevate your choreography.
But I still am enjoying Reacher. It's a show I would totally recommend people watch. And
Oh, a
apparently,
lot of people are
like
watching it. I've met a few people who have told me about it. Yeah,
apparently it's like Amazon's like I think #1 show. Like it's
I
a
believe
big
it.
hit, and they've already greenlit season 3. So yeah, people are loving it. I've also been watching more each week. Season 5 of Fargo, and man, AJ, I got to tell you, been a great season. This show. There's only one episode left, so like hopefully it doesn't like crap the bed or anything. But man, so far, fantastic season. It's really good.
Season what?
This is season 5.
Wow, season five still keeping it strong. All
Yeah,
right.
it's great, man. It's really good. I also watched a couple movies. So I watched on Hulu The Creator, which
Okay.
was a movie that came out like maybe late summer, early fall last year, and it's a movie I actually thought about watching in the theater. And after watching it, I'm actually kind of sad I didn't watch it in the theater because it was actually really good. I really liked it. And I don't think it did particularly well in theaters. And now that I've watched it, I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I would have contributed, my little bit
Okay.
to the box office because it's actually pretty good. So the concept of the film is like it takes place sometime in the future. I don't remember exactly how far. And like people develop AI, and at first it's going like really well. Basically, AI is being integrated into society and like becoming a part of people's lives. But then at some point, the AI ignite an atomic bomb in Los Angeles. So now the United States is very against AI, but over in Asia, the people still believe in AI and are still like developing and allowing, and a part of them like kind of believe it's like they have their own autonomy and kind of life of their own. So they're allowing AI to exist, and so now the U.S. is like, we're going to take the war to AI in in Asia, and they basically developed this basically huge drone system um, to kind of help them. And so, like the lead character is John David Washington, who's Denzel Washington's son. He's
Hmm.
like the lead guy, and well, I don't want to spoil too much, but basically, in early on in the movie, he's on a mission over there undercover, and he falls in love with this woman. Um, and then, boy, I'm thinking like I want to be careful. I don't want to spoil too much. Basically, something bad happens, and then years later, the government gets him to go back in there after this AI. And when he gets there, the AI turns out to be like this little girl, and like it ends up kind of being a lone wolf and cub type of story where he's like taking care of this AI girl, and like And so I don't want to give away too much because I actually don't want to spoil this movie. But yeah, it's good sci-fi. I ended up really liking it, and it actually, honestly, it looks really good too. Like a lot of the effects are really good. So yeah, if you're looking for an original like sci-fi film, The Creator, man, I thought it was really good.
All right, yeah, might check it out.
Um, so the next one, I actually, AJ, I thought this was an Indian film. It actually turned out to be a film about Pakistani characters,
Hmm.
um, but it's called Polite Society. And this is a movie I remember seeing trailers for, like in the theater for like ahead of another movie we were watching.
Hmm.
Um, and then I never heard anything about it. But then I sometimes listen to podcasts about movies, and like some people were putting this on their top 10 list, so I decided to try it. It's also on Amazon Prime. But it's basically this comedy of this Pakistani girl that's like she's probably like a teenager, and then she's got an older sister who's probably like uh, in her like early to mid 20s, I guess.
Hmm.
But anyway, her sister gets engaged to this guy, and like she doesn't like this guy, so she's basically trying to spoil their relationship.
Hmm.
But also, what's weird is like, so she's like trying to be a she. Her goal in life is to become a stunt woman, and so she's like very into like martial arts and stuff. And so this movie at points has like very like stylized like martial arts fights like with her. It's a very quirky movie. I can't really totally explain it, but the one thing I'll say is like there's a twist in this movie that's very bizarre, and like you won't see it coming. I don't want to give it away because it's like it would be the main reason I would recommend this movie to people. Like overall, like this isn't anywhere as good as The Creator, but it's definitely like I think worth watching. It's a very quirky movie. It is legitimately funny in spots, but just the weirdness of it and that twist that I don't want to give away. I would recommend people watch it. It's unique.
Okay.
And then finally, just today on HBO Max, I watched another one of those like DC like animated films. This one's called Justice League War World.
Man, they're
Um,
pumping those DC movies out.
yeah,
There's
they
so
make
much
a lot
animated
of them,
content. Yeah.
and to be honest, a lot of them are mid. A lot of them aren't like great.
Okay.
And this is one of those that I would say is not a must watch. It's kind of a weird one because you start off and you don't really know what's happening, and it they basically created this framework to tell a bunch of like kind of like elseworldly type stories. Like so the first one you got Wonder Woman is in the Wild West and you're like how did she get here? Like what's going on? And then it transitions to a story where like Batman is kind of like in a Conan the Barbarian type story uh, um, with a character called Warlord that's in DC Comics. And then it transitions to this kind of like black and white like Superman as Clark Kent is like a government agent, like investigating like um, uh, a UFO sighting type of thing, and you're like, again, it's kind of like what's going on, and then you find out that they've all been kind of like um, forced into these illusions. They're actually on War World, which is like this moving planet that a villain called Mongol controls. And then basically in the end, there's just like this big fight between them and a bunch of aliens. Overall, overall, kind of a yeah, just a I don't know, not great. As far as these DC ones, like animated films go, it's probably on the lower scale. I would say
Oh,
I
that
don't
sucks.
really recommend it. It's just it's not very good.
You know, that sucks because like I really liked Flashpoint, and I wish they would make like great content like that. Like
Yeah, Flashpoint was a good one.
yeah, I think Dark Side War wasn't bad either.
Yeah, that one was okay as well. Our
Yeah.
Yeah, it was either Dark Side War or Apocalypse War. One of those. Yeah, that
Okay,
one was
yeah.
decent. Some of the Batman ones are good. Like I thought the Dark Knight 2-part adaptation was pretty good. Or Dark Knight
Okay.
Returns. And then also, I think my favorite one is Batman Under the Red Hood, which tells the story of Jason Todd coming back to life and all that. That
Red
one's
Hood,
pretty
right?
good. Yeah, Red Hood.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, there's a lot of them that are just either mid or kind of bad.
Yeah. Ugh. It's still better than Marvel's animated stuff, man. Theirs is just kind of whack.
Yeah, I agree. It's weird because Marvel has access to their animation studios, which have traditionally made very good stuff.
Hmm.
They even got Pixar if they maybe ever wanted to do. Well, I'm sure Pixar doesn't want to do a Marvel
Yeah,
property
right.
type thing,
Yeah.
but they got great animation, and I don't know why they don't really capitalize on those for more Marvel projects. Sony doing great work with the Spider Verse movies. It's
Really
surprising.
good work.
Yeah,
I, I think Spider Verse is the best animated superhero stuff I've seen so far. Like I, I didn't give Sony any credit up until that point. I thought Sony was just dropping the ball so badly. I don't know how they hit that out of the park twice. Um, but well done, man. It's just creative the way they're doing it. It's very funny. It's clever. Um, yeah, I mean, they actually pushed the envelope with that one.
yeah, those movies are fantastic.
Yeah.
I was trying to think. Yeah, even I mean, I am kind of curious of because I watched the hell out of the X-Men cartoon as a kid,
Oh, me too.
and now Disney is gonna come back with X-Men '97, which is like supposed to like basically just pick up on that show.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm kind of curious about that. Um, a couple months ago when I had Disney, I watched a couple of those X-Men like episodes, and like
Those old ones, do they
yeah,
hold
the old
up?
ones, and like they're okay. They're okay. Um, but I don't think I could get through. Like somewhere in my head, I was like, well, maybe I'll watch them all in the lead up to like the reboot, but I probably never will get back
I'm
to it.
sure I would feel the same way as you, dude. Like I have a nostalgic, like, old Spider-Man and old X-Men. I used to love them both. But I know if I went back and watched them now, I'd be like, oh, that was my kid brain.
I did watch a couple of Spider Mans because I was curious of those two because yeah, I watched the hell out of those as a kid too, and same thing where I'm like it's the ones I watched weren't terrible, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. It's not like Batman the animated series where you can watch as a kid or an adult and be like, "Wow, this is really something." It
Right.
is something where you're like, "Yeah, I would have liked this better when I was a kid." You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And as an adult, you're like, I can appreciate certain aspects of it, but it's not rocking my world.
Right, yeah.
I will say though that X Men opening theme song still a banger.
Oh, of course, yeah. They have to bring it back every time they get a chance. It better be in Deadpool too.
It wouldn't surprise me, man. They used it a little bit in Multiverse of Madness when
Yeah.
Xavier showed